The arena was a vacuum of nervous energy. 100,000 breaths were held, all focusing on a single point of entry. It wasn't just anticipation. It was the heavy, almost crushing weight of a legacy that had been fading for a decade. The commentators had run out of pleasantries, resorting to tense silence. Every flickering light, every murmur from the crowd, felt amplified in orchestra tuning for a final, desperate symphony. Her name was rumored, a ghost story whispered in the halls. They needed a miracle, a spark, anything to save the night. This wasn't about a win. It was about an emotional resurrection. Then the music changed. Not a blaring rock anthem, but a slow, rhythmic bass line, a sound that embodied absolute, unwavering self-belief. It felt less like a song and more like a challenge thrown at the gods of failure. A collective sigh, half awe, half disbelief, rippled through the lower decks. The commentators, veterans of 1,000 such moments, leaned in, their voices dropping to urgent whispers. This wasn't a nervous athlete. This was someone who owned the moment before she even claimed it. The atmosphere was already thickening with a palpable sense of change. His entrance ni pura match kamud bataldia, no fear. No hesitation, but pure confidence or power. The initial stride was measured, deliberate, a silent promise of destruction. Her eyes, even in the abstract form of the animation, conveyed a deep, unsettling calm. She wasn't seeking validation. She was demanding surrender. Every step she took erased the doubts of the past year. The crowd was no longer spectators. They were witnesses to a historical realignment. This was an artistic statement of dominance, a rejection of the comfortable, predictable script. The roar was deafening, a visceral explosion of relief and excitement. But just as the energy peaked, she did something truly unforeseen. She stopped, not at the ring apron, but exactly halfway down the ramp. She then turned her back on her opponent, slowly raising her hand to point, not at the stadium ceiling, but at a faded, dusty banner of a champion long retired, her childhood idol. The unspoken message hung heavy. I am here to finish your story. Or fair ek unexpected moment ni arena ka atmosphere 100x intense cardia, wait till you see it. The unscripted pause and the defiant gesture sent immediate shockwaves backstage. Her manager, a nervous veteran sweating through his finely tailored suit, was already shouting into his headset. What was that? That wasn't the plan. The main event opponent, a reigning champion, watched on a monitor, a flicker of genuine alarm replacing her usual arrogance. The conflict was no longer confined to the ring. It was a battle for control of the entire narrative. The established order was being challenged not by strength, but by pure, unadulterated emotional force. The night was now hers, and everyone else was simply reacting. Meanwhile, the media chaos began instantly. Pundits and commentators, scrambling to explain the emotional subtext, spoke of her family's name, a legacy built on humility and clean play. This entrance, this statement of raw, unapologetic ambition, was a deliberate break from that tradition. Her older brother, a retired, respected figure, was reportedly furious, seeing it as a reckless betrayal of their values. The pressure wasn't to win. It was to justify this sudden, shocking, emotional pivot. The stakes had been raised from a match to a public declaration of independence. In the midst of the roaring crowd, a young fan, holding a worn-out sign, began to weep. Not tears of joy, but a profound, cathartic release. She later explained to a waiting reporter that the entrance wasn't about the show. It was about recognizing her own silent battles. She walked for us, the fan choked out, like she had finally decided to stop apologizing for her own power. This was the emotional core of the viral moment, a shared vulnerability dressed in a cloak of absolute confidence. The fans weren't just captivated. They felt seen. The immediate unseen consequence was the psychological blow to her opponent. The champion, who had prepared for a skilled athlete, was now facing a terrifying ideological challenge. Her calculated game plan was irrelevant against this emotional firestorm. The challenger's eyes communicated a belief so absolute that it was infectious and paralyzing. She had won the battle of wills before the bell even rang. The fear of losing was no longer the champion's primary concern. It was the terrifying prospect of becoming a mere footnote in someone else's legendary beginning. The true meaning of the entrance was revealed hours later, far from the stadium lights. It wasn't about defiance. It was about finally accepting a terrifying birthright. Her childhood idol, the champion on the faded banner, was not just an inspiration. She was her estranged mother, the mother who walked away, unable to handle the pressure of the spotlight. The no fear, no limits entrance was not an act of arrogance, but a painful public declaration to her family. I am not running from this legacy, I am embracing it, even the parts that hurt you. The match itself ended in a chaotic draw, the victory irrelevant compared to the moment. But the twist was this: the entrance wasn't just a challenge to the opponent, but a final, powerful, and public confrontation with her own fear of failure, the fear that had haunted her mother. The viral moment wasn't her confidence. It was her raw, public forgiveness. It changed the night, not because she won the match, but because she finally won the internal battle to step out of a shadow. The emotional echo will last for generations.